Progressive Era was a movement that involved reforms for unjust laws and crude government. The Progressives found ways to help the people and the economy. They were very different than the Socialists who were radical in their ideals. The President saw that America needed to make some changes in their economy and routine. Furthermore, Roosevelt, Taft, and Wilson were progressives because of democracy, pragmatism, and no laissez-faire. These progressive presidencies were for democracy in their presidencies because they gave America a whole new meaning. For example, during Roosevelt's presidency, the direct primary was established. This method was invented by Wisconsin Governor Robert La Follette, introduced by letting the voters elect the party candidates. Therefore, an idea was developed in Taft's presidency. This policy was called the direct election of U.S. senators, where the people vote for the senators. For instance, Taft also allowed the 17th Amendment. It required the U.S. Senate to be elected by the popular vote. Therefore, this gave people the freedom to do what is right for voting for a just official. Furthermore, Wilson's New Freedom Plan helped with small businesses and other reforms. Over time, Wilson allowed the 19th Amendment to be ratified. This amendment gave women the right to vote. These policies helped make these presidencies important because they saw that the people needed to speak. They cared about the Americans' thoughts. Nevertheless, these men were different with democracy. Roosevelt believed in a strong defense. Taft was concerned with legislation, and Wilson's establishment of the Child Labor Act showed that he cared about children's education and rights. Therefore, these men were strongly pragmatic because they did what was right for the now. Some of these policies were not beneficial to the people. For example, Taft's Payne-Aldrich tariff raised the taxes on most imports. He thought that if he couldn't get the lower tariff passed, he might as well agree with Congress to have something. However, Roosevelt's Square Deal benefited the coal miners because it allowed a 10% wage increase in a 9-hour workdays. Wilson's Federal Trade Commission was created to take action against any unfair trade practice except for banking and transportation. In contrast to these presidencies, Roosevelt's Square Deal threatened the miners with federal troops to end the strike. Taft's Payne-Aldrich tariff demonstrated that his passion was more to the economy than people. Wilson's Federal Trade Commission acknowledged that he did what he could to help America's trade. Finally, these presidents demonstrated a no laissez-faire in their government because these men thought they should be involved with the government. For example, Wilson's Federal Reserve Act of 1914 created a national banking system established by Carter Glass. This method is still used today in our banks. Furthermore, Roosevelt's Elkins Act broke up the monopolies. In addition, the Hepburn Act was created for just and reasonable railroad rates. Afterwards, Taft created the Mann-Elkins Act, which strengthened the Interstate Commission Commerce to suspend the new railroad rates. Taft even ratified the 16th Amendment, which allowed the U.S. government to collect an income tax. Alternatively, the president's policies were different. Wilson's act denied the Republicans' new bank for the banking system. This policy was more effective. Roosevelt developed a distinction between good and bad trust. The good trust, through efficiency and lower prices, dominated the markets. The bad trust harmed the public and stiffened the competition and regulating. Therefore, Taft's creation of the income tax was favored by the progressives. The reason, in the beginning, it only applied to the very wealthy. Progressive presidents tampered with social reforms with economic growth. They balanced the needs of human rights with the basic necessities. These men knew they needed a strong economy. However, they were morally driven to conserve the human spirit. History affirms their decisions through the growth of the economy.